This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Moment. Tonight, the left's Manhattan Massacre. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, another jihadist atrocity, this time the Halloween Massacre in NYC. And look, it's become just this tragic, dark comedy over and over again. And of course, I don't mean comedy. It's not a comedy at all, but I mean it in the most tragic sense, in the most darkest sense, in the sense that the left, and we know this very well, is facilitating all this. And once again, after another jihadist attack, we already know there's a certain blueprint, and they just fill in the names. They just fill in the blanks. It's the same old thing again. And we go to MSNBC, we go to CNN, we go to what the establishment media is saying, how our culture talks, the boundaries of discourse and how they're set by the left. And what I'm getting to is, once again, what inspired this guy? Nobody knows his motivations. De Blasio recently, talking about how, he hopes that after this attack, the last thing we need to do is start generalizing about any race or religion. And look, ladies and gentlemen, of course we know we don't generalize about race. But when it comes to religion and ideology, when is this absurdity going to stop? Do we really stop generalizing about any ideology or religion when a jihadist is screaming Allahu Akbar and attended a mosque in New Jersey? And this is happening to us over and over again. And we're really going to continue enforcing and following jihad denial. We're going to continue following what people like de Blasio are saying. But there's an agenda behind this. And this is what I want to get to this evening with perhaps just a few minutes that I have, is that, my friends, if we do not stop this, if we do not stop what the left is doing to us by blindfolding us and tying our hands behind our back, these attacks are going to increase in number and intensity. And the scariest thing is that for the left, human blood can be sacrificed on the altar of ideas. So you see, this is a religion to them. This is a secular religion to them. And as we know, the left ultimately turns suicidal, and it takes everybody down with it. And so look, we know that the left is in control of our culture. I encourage all of you, read David Horowitz, all of his work, especially his volume series, The Black Book of the American Left. And he's the best at this. And, he documents not only how the left fights culture war, but how it takes control and how it dominates culture. And so today, why all of this is happening is the left is in control of our establishment media, of our leaderships, of academia, of Hollywood, of culture, of our boundaries of discourse. Now, when I say leaderships, what I want to get to is, the Glazov Gang loves Trump. President Trump represents a lot of hope, so we're cheering for Trump. But there's also a problem in that these leftist forces are also frustrating him very much, and they're blocking him, and they're also not only in his administration, but his inner circle, and I want to end with that. But my friends, we've got a serious problem, and it can be crystallized in what I just said about what Mayor de Blasio said, and, there's something else to think about. Linda Sarsour, if you go read the news, watch what's happening. She stopped the NYPD's monitoring of Saipov's mosque. Now, Saipov is this jihadist that just perpetrated this jihadist attack. So let's think about this. This jihadist was going to a mosque in New Jersey that was being monitored by the NYPD. And this was such a Islamophobic and racist, discriminatory thing to do that the left, and including Linda Sarsour, took initiatives and took steps where they confronted the NYPD and they stopped its counter-terrorism surveillance network and everything it was doing, all of its efforts, but it stopped its monitoring of this mosque. So let this sink in. There's a mosque that this jihadist is going to The NYPD is monitoring this mosque. The NYPD stops monitoring the mosque because of the left, because of people like Linda Sarsour, and a person in that mosque ends up perpetrating a jihadist attack that kills Americans. What conclusion would you make from this? Could it be that the left and people like Linda Sarsour are enabling, are complicit with the Islamic Jihad that is killing us? And so, ladies and gentlemen, this, is a big topic in terms of what the left is essentially and why it does what it does and all this evil that it perpetrates. But this evening, I just want to, crystallize several points for them to sink in for all of us. The left is dominating our culture. It is facilitating these jihadist attacks against us, and it is stopping our ability and our capacity to do anything about it. We have to remember, why does the left do this? The left hates its host democratic capitalist society. Leftists hate Western civilization, the Judeo-Christian tradition, and capitalist democracy. It wants to destroy its host society and build its utopian, vision of its own earthly paradise on the ashes of this society. It wants to enforce its visions of sameness and equality, all of that utopianism that has caused more than 100 million deaths in the 20th century. So this is the key. The left wants to build a classless utopia here. Jihadists want to build a Sharia utopia. So they very much have something in common. Read David Horowitz's Unholy Alliance that explains this. Read my book, United in Hate, that documents this. That there is an alliance between the left and Islam because they have a common goal in destroying Western civilization, democracy, the capitalist world, prosperity, the individualism that it so beautifully and preciously spawns, and the respect for the individual, etc., etc. And so the thing with the left is that it's allied, therefore, with jihad. And we see that throughout history, and we see it even right now. Now new evidence is coming out that Antifa met with ISIS in Germany just this July at the G20 summit. So there's this bond between them, okay? And the left celebrates whenever there's a jihadist attack. It's in their interests that this is happening because it's waging war on this society. It wants to build its own earthly paradise on ground zero. And that's why leftists celebrated 9/11. I document that in the introduction to my book, United in Hate, in case any of you are raising eyebrows or not believing this reality. So the key is that the left engages in jihad denial. It has to deny what jihad is when it happens. And so that's what's happening here. It'll talk about mental illness. It'll talk about global warming. It'll say that, this person just needed a job, etc., etc., etc. It cannot admit what jihad is really all about because, number one, the left is on the side of jihad. And another very important factor, admitting jihad would be admitting that there's an adversary culture and an adversary ideology that's a threat to our civilization. And therefore, there might be something evil, more evil than our society and way of life, right? And so if you keep thinking that way, the leftists might have to conclude that our society, that capitalism, that democracy, the Judeo-Christian tradition is worth saving and protecting. And this is anathema to the left because saving and protecting our capitalist democratic society is the last thing it wants to do. So it cannot admit what jihad is really all about. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the left is today controlling our discourse, our national discourse, our cultural discourse, and it's disabling us and incapacitating us from doing anything about attacks like this. And this is a tragedy because what's really happening here in the end is that it's incapacitating us from making a threat assessment. And you've got to read Stephen Coughlin's Catastrophic Failure, where he documents that the main problem now, because of the Muslim Brotherhood influence and the leftist influence over our leadership and over our culture, that we cannot make a proper threat assessment. And you can't defeat an enemy if you can't name him. So I will end with this, my friends. Trump represents tremendous hope. A great president, a great guy. He articulated and verbalized many, many good things during his campaign. And he's doing many good things. And he said some very good things after this particular atrocity that's just been perpetrated in New York. He's talking about, better vetting and, doing lots of good things. But my friends, he's being blocked. And wonderful, heroic people like Steve Bannon, Sebastian Gorka, Richard Higgins have been pushed out of his administration. Tragically, within his inner circle, people like McMaster, Mattis, Tillerson, all jihad deniers. Please engage, get involved, start standing up and making noise about the importance of making a threat assessment, of being truthful about the threat that Islam represents. And it doesn't mean that whenever you tell the truth about Islam, don't fall into the leftist lie that this means that you hate all Muslim people or we're somehow racists. Islam is not a race, and we all know that there's many, many good Muslim people. There's a difference between an idea and people, and many people within the Islamic religion do not follow Islamic teachings or violent mandates. But the problem is that there's violent mandates within Islam, and we have to be truthful about this because it represents a threat in terms of the people who will follow those violent teachings. So please start making a lot of noise, fight for a threat assessment, fight for the truth being told about the threat that we're facing, and fight for the reality, the hopeful reality that soon people like Steve Bannon, like Sebastian Gorka, people around the world like Bridget Gabriel or Robert Spencer or Nani Darwish, that heroic truth tellers about the threat we are facing can surround Trump rather than the jihad deniers around him today. Thank you for joining the Jamie Glazov Moment. Good night.